It is a timely podcast because it's a Halloween podcast. You say, why are you doing Halloween on Christian podcasts? Well, because a lot of churches use that holiday to do something called, well, we'll look at that in just a minute, but you'll know what we're talking about. Sam, do you know what else is famous for October 31?
Well, my mother was born the day before.
Reformation Day. Isn't that October 31?
You know, I hear people talking about that, and I guess as a Protestant, I should celebrate it more, but it's not something that's on my radar.
Well,
yes, I know what before the audience goes, what? I know what Reformation Day is, and I know the history of the Reformation. It's just not something I grew up with. I know there are certain people in our audience that grew up with that tradition of Reformation Day and not Halloween. Listen, I think it's great. Better to celebrate church history than goblins and gobbledygook. But yeah, you did not raise me to celebrate Reformation Day.
I had no clue it was Reformation Day when I was raising you. Neither you nor your mom. Hey, it's Reformation Day, Nelly Joe, huh? Who got reformed? No, I don't know anything about Reformation Day when you were a kid. I've only learned it as I've become more ingrained with the Reformed culture. Not necessarily adopting everything that they believe, but becoming more familiar with the Reformed culture. October 31st is also Nick Saban's birthday. And you mentioned October 30th, which is your mother, my wife's birthday, and our good friend Eric Geiger was born on October 30th. There's a lot of things going on, but we're going to talk about Halloween.
Well, happy birthday, Mom. Happy birthday, Eric. Happy birthday, Nick. I know he is a faithful listener of this show. So
he's missed two since since 1909. He's missed. 1909, 2009. He's missed two of them. He's missed at least two. Let me just put it that way. So
he's missed at least two.
We're going to talk about how churches became the go-to spot for Halloween. It's kind of a cool story. We'll get to that in just a minute. Hey, our sponsor is the Life Application Study Bible by Tyndale. It's been one of the best-selling Bibles that there has ever been, period. It's got scholars and pastors that have contributed to it, thousands of study resources. It's got so much in it. And it's no wonder that it has become the popular study Bible that it is. It has over 10,000 notes and resources. You can go deep dive into history, culture, Christian beliefs. Who knows? You may even find out about Reformation Day in this Life Application Study Bible, but I don't know that. I don't know that for sure. Hey, I want to give a shout out to a couple of our good friends and just let our audience know about them before we get to the content here. Our folks at Brown Church Development Group, man, they're doing a great job. Sam, it seems like every week I'm sending someone to them in terms of getting advice, maybe going to build a building, going to renovate something, going to downsize a worship center, which is really popular, going to extend
master
planning. And by the way, many people think that master planning means this huge, expensive type of endeavor that nobody can afford. They can do most master planning digitally. They have everything they need. So I check them out because you don't want to get into any future building without a master plan. And if you're doing some type of planning for the future, strategic planning, get a master plan to accompany that. The other one I want to mention is Church Growth Services. Our good friend Mike Stottlemyre. They have a new free campaign capacity analysis. It's a calculator, and it is really, really good stuff. And it just tells you what can we raise, how much can we raise for this particular project, and you can get it free. It's in the show notes, and that's from Church Growth Services. So I just wanted to mention those two before we get into the content of this. I always thank Tyndale, and then we had these brief mentions of these sponsors here. So Sam, talk to us about this Halloween at the church, judgment houses, trunk or treat, all of these things. I've got some stories behind it, but I want to hear from you first.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people who grew up in the Gen X generation and the millennial generation, particularly if you grew up in church culture, there was almost a stigma associated with Halloween.
Hmm.
You know, weren't allowed to go trick or treating. There were going to be plenty of people that remember that, or it was frowned upon. You know, it was this scary, dark, evil holiday. And I
Hmm.
get it. You know, there is a level of darkness associated with it. And frankly, with the way spiritual warfare is, we all need to be careful about that. But I am really glad that churches seem to have captured this. Have we captured this from the culture? I don't know that I could say that, but it kind of feels that way a little bit, at least with kids. Because I know at our church, people don't go out in the neighborhood and trick or treat anymore. They come to our church, which is great.
The candy is safe. The atmosphere is safe. It's quick. You don't have to go house to house and get people mad, knocking on doors, ringing doorbells. Just go
So
grab some
let's just,
candy.
the candy has always been safe. This whole thing about they're putting drugs in there, you know, LSD tabs and poisoning the can, that was completely made up by evangelical subculture and parents who, I don't know where they got that or why they
Okay, it is
repeated it.
perceived to be safe when it was perceived not to be. Perception is reality.
Well, that I will go along with, but I just want to be clear. It was not like there was this mass movement of putting cocaine in the candy.
No, it was razor
That
blades,
did not happen.
double-edged razor blades.
Razor blades. Yeah, razor. Like where did that come from? Did that ever even happen once? I don't know that it did.
I don't know. I'll ask AI and once we get off this particular recording. But there's something else that's going on, and that is we talk about the anxious generation in that book, and then I'm doing a follow up to that book, not my book, but a follow up to that book called The Anxious Generation Goes to Church, and more parents are hesitant to let their children roam around, even if they're several feet away from them. It's a thing now. And you got captured in that movement. First of all, by your mother.
Yeah, a little bit. Now, I know why the anxious generation is so anxious. I can pinpoint it exactly.
You're talking about the
Judgment
smartphone?
House.
Oh,
No, Judgment House. Well, I know that's the thesis of the book, the Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. Yeah, but I think it was Judgment Houses. If you remember Judgment Houses back from the 1970s, 1980s, partly into the 90s.
right.
You know, those would, pardon the phrase, scare the hell out of you, right? That was kind of
That was the whole
the whole
idea. That was
point.
the thesis. Scare the hell so you accept Jesus and go to heaven. Exactly.
And hear me out. Hear me out. I know that there are some Judgment House defenders, and I have some that have talked to me like we should bring that back. I'm not so opposed. I'm not saying that they were all that bad. I'm just saying it was kind of a thing for a while, a trend for a while that churches did that they don't do anymore. I don't know that my neighbors would really appreciate us like being the scariest place in the community. Like West Braid did, the judgment house, but it did some good. I know people got saved by it. So I'm not completely denigrating what happened, but yeah, the anxious generation, your thesis is correct. Millennials, but I kind of missed that. I didn't really get, I'm not anxious. I was not part of that, but this whole idea of being immersed in yourself and your cell phone and being underprotected online and overprotected in the real world is just, it's true. It's so true. And I see it in my own kids, which is why my wife and we let our kids roam the neighborhood, much to the dismay of our neighbors.
And their grandparents at times, at least the Rayner side grandparents. We're kind of.
There are times when I don't know where my children are. Dad, it was your generation that needed the stinking 10 o'clock commercial late at night. It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? That public service announcement. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that. No, I remember reading about it.
It was a real thing. That was a real thing. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
No, I don't. I've read it. I don't know anything about it. But let me say this regarding the fear of your children getting too far away from you. The epicenter of it began just a few miles from where you were raised in Louisville, Kentucky. When Ann Gottlieb was kidnapped and she was riding her bike near Bashford Manor Mall in Louisville, Kentucky, just a couple of miles from where you lived at the time, that was the epicenter of the missing children's. And that's where you begin to see the new organizations form, the putting the faces on milk cartons. Ann Gottlieb was the beginning of it. By the way, she was never found. And it, for some reason, like some particular stories, it captured the heart, the mind, and the fears of the U.S. You were there. You were about Ann Gottlieb's age when Ann was kidnapped. So that happened in your backyard. And that's one of the reasons, among others, that there's those fears.
Yeah, it's certainly a tragedy, and kidnappings and horrible things do happen. But you seem to be more anxious about it than I am.
Well, I was more aware.
But I was a kid.
You were a kid. Yeah, you were a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, those things are pretty rare. Horrible, absolutely horrible, and definitely, something we need to be concerned about. But this is part of the reason that churches have been able to really capture this moment. We have a gigantic festival, we call it Fall Festival, Trunk or Treat. I think ours is called Treat Street. We change it from time to time, but it's called Treat Street. And so everyone always asks how many people show up, and I'm like, we don't even know. It's hard to estimate. But well over 1,000 people will be on our campus, and we're the place for the neighborhood. And hear me out. I know why everyone is there, because it is a massive amount of candy in a really safe place. You don't have to go door to door. There's an efficiency to coming to us, because you can fill that bag or whatever you have, or pillowcase if you're really wanting to get a lot of candy, just at our spot. And we're fine with that. We want that. We want people to just show up on our campus, have a good time. We do have a way of sharing the gospel. So I want to this is so much fun. This is something that I get to do. So I share my faith more times numerically on Halloween than probably, and I hate to say this, but probably compared to the rest of the year combined, is probably more on Halloween. And here's how we do it. So we do a Bible character scavenger hunt. So we've got 1,000+ people on our campus, and mixed into all these costumes is Bible characters. And we have 4 Bible characters that you have to go find. So it's a scavenger hunt. So I've been Jonah, I've been Bartimaeus, I've been some different Bible characters. And if you find all 4, then you can register to get you get a prize, and you register to get even bigger prize. So people really like doing the scavenger hunt. And at each time you go to a Bible character, we're sharing the faith. Hey, I'm Bartimaeus. Here's my story. I met Jesus. Here's how I met Jesus, and want you to meet Jesus too. So we share that with the family, with the kids. I will have like 20 people gathered around me, like, oh, we found one of them. And they will sit there and hear me act out as a Bible character, but in the process, share the gospel. And I probably get to share the gospel with 500 people plus.
Amazing.
Kids and parents. So it is a wonderful time. So you can take these things and really make them gospel opportunities. That's what we do. We want everyone to come, have a good time, get the candy, play the games, get in the bouncies, all that. But we also want opportunities to meet neighbors and share the gospel.
Okay, well, all of it's outside, I guess. I guess you could move it in the gym if weather was inclement.
October 31st is never inclement here in Southwest Florida.
Dry season.
Dry season, usually middle of October, things switch over. It can be warm, it can be cool, we don't know, but I've never seen it rain. Of course, this will be the year. Thanks, Dad. This will be the year that it rains on us. But
everything else has happened. In case, you would not know this, we are recording this as Sam is waiting on a hurricane in Bradenton. So you won't.
Yeah, Milton's about to hit. So I can tell you, it won't be the next episode either, because we're recording these back to back. But in a few episodes, I can tell you how I'm doing.
Well, it's kind of funny, because Milton was a cartoon comedy, and it was a monster. I'm Milton, your brand new son.
That's not the Milton that everybody knows, Dad.
Okay, well,
Milton was a character in Office Space who liked his red stapler. Let's get this right.
I'm talking about, but Milton is a monster, and the hurricane is a monster. Milton was a kid monster.
Okay.
Just
Fair enough.
and Office Space is a classic as well. All right,
It's a great
so
movie.
you have this gospel presentation. You have bouncy houses. You have candy everywhere, and you're interacting with all the families in the neighborhood. Were they doing it? You've been at the church 9 years, if I recall correctly. Did this precede you, or did you lead them in it?
No, we've been doing Fall Fest, Treat Street, Trunk or Treat, whatever we call it, for probably 12 to 15 years. Jenny, our children's minister, who now writes for Bright Curriculum, she started it all, did a really good job with that. So it's something our church has been doing for quite some time. But
Well, it certainly
it really
matches
is.
Go on.
It really is this great opportunity. And I would encourage you, if you're not doing this, you should, maybe too tight to do it this year, but certainly be planning for this, because you can become the go-to spot in your neighborhood. We always do ours on Halloween. We always do it on Halloween. We don't try to, do it on the weekend before, the weekend after, the Saturday closest, or anything like that. We just, whatever Halloween is, that's the day we do it. That's when everyone wants to be out. And it really works for us.
And you are a neighborhood church for the nation, so this is just more of a emphasis on we're here for our neighborhood. We're going to serve our neighborhood. We're going to serve the neighborhood parents. We're going to serve the neighborhood kids. And more so than I've watched it change dramatically at Westby, it has become such a diverse group of kids as well. Man, I remember when you first arrived, it was like a bunch of white kids, and now there's all kinds of color out there, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, we're very grateful for that. I mean, 45% of our community is ethnic minority, and that night it'll be a big, diverse group of people. Our Spanish ministry will be out there. Pastor Jesus will be meeting people and talking to them in Spanish.
They're not saying Jesus is here, are they?
No, well, they would. Well, Jesus, but yes, it looks like Jesus.
Yes.
He's heard that joke before, by the way, just so you know. But
I'm sure
we really enjoy it, and we have a lot of fun. Our own kids have a lot of fun. Our own kids get to interact with people. We're sharing the gospel, and we want to be known by the neighborhood as a place that the neighborhood is welcome. And I think that just about any church, you may not be able to do it to our scale, because we've been doing it a long time, and we've built up this whole reputation, and everyone knows to come our way. Certainly over time, you could do the same. Any church could, if you're consistent and you do it well, and you do it big. There are going to be people there. So I just think it's a great opportunity, and I think every church should be thinking about how can we become the go-to spot. It may not be for Halloween. That may not be your thing. You may say we do some other things. That's fine. But historically, churches, really starting back at the Judgment House era, started saying, let's do something about this. Perhaps Halloween as a holiday is taking a darker turn than we like. So let's pull it back to something that honors God. And I totally understand those who are anti-evil. And they say
That's
Halloween
good.
is evil. Totally get it. But I'm also glad that there are churches pulling it back to focus on Christ.
Well, it is an incredible thing that's happening at your church. It's happening in many churches. And this is just another example of, hey, we have an opportunity. Instead of whining about what culture's doing, let's come up with a positive solution to address it. And this is one of the success stories, if you will, for churches that have said, we're going to address the issue. We may not like the thesis behind Halloween. We may not like what some would say is a demonic type of influence. But instead of just bashing culture, let's do something that is positive. And that's just that is really the great story behind, first of all, Judgment House, and then Trunk or Treat, I should say, and then whatever you're calling it. It's a great story, and I commend the churches that are approaching culture in this way. And your church as well, Sam, all churches.
And if Halloween's not your jam, another great way to connect with your community is through sports. And one of the best way to do that is with Upward Sports. And now is the time to be thinking about your 2025 outreach ministry. Upward can help you with that. So whether you've got a gym, whether you've got a parking lot, or whether you've got field space or all of the above, Upward can help you get programs started. This is what they do. They connect you, the church, with the neighborhood, with your community, and they
It's
get your
great.
own people mixing in with people of the community. Typically, you're going to have 50% of your own people mixing in with 50% of the neighborhood, and that's what Upward sports programs end up becoming. And the good thing about Upward is, unlike a trunk or treat or a treat street or a fall fest or whatever you do, it's not a one-time event. This is something that's ongoing. So these people will be on your campus on an ongoing basis. So whether you want to do basketball, cheerleading, soccer, flag football, volleyball, baseball, soccer, they do it all. You can reach out to them at upward.org/church answers. Again, upward.org/church answers.
Hey, before you sign up,
the neighborhood.
Before you sign off, I'm sorry, go on. You finish your thing, then I got something I want to say, and then you can sign off.
I was just going to say, tell your neighbors that you're welcome here. That's what Upward does. You are welcome here.
The more I know about Upward, the more impressed I am. Hey, by the way, we have been steadily, not rapidly, but steadily growing our YouTube audience. And it's my desire, I know it's been yours for some time, to continue to do that. So can you give us a thumbs up? Even can you subscribe to this particular channel and just let the world know that we are here? I may not be the prettiest thing in the world. Sam's kind of a young, dashing young man, but we like being here and we like to interact with you on YouTube. And I know many of you listen on your favorite podcasting app, and thanks for ratings and review there. But how about a review or a subscribe, or just get the word out about us being on YouTube. It's kind of fun to do so. And you've turned me into a YouTube enthusiast in the best way, Sam. So now you can wrap it up.
Yeah, I certainly want to thank all of you for joining us on today's episode. Got another episode next week, like we always do. Also, I'll just go ahead and give everyone a heads up. We will be expanding our content in 2025. Got some big plans there, so hang tight. If you enjoy the show, there will be more of it. So looking forward to that, and we'll see all of you next week.